Okay, kids, in this video, I will be talking about common names and IUPAC names. When we say common names, in common names, aliphatic amines are named by prefixing alkyl group. So remember, not alkane. This is the difference between common names and IUPAC names. Here, alkyl group to amine. So for example, alkyl amine, methyl amine, ethyl amine, etc. So this is the example. Simplest one, CH3NH2. So this is amine here, and we have written this CH3 as methyl alkyl group, right? In secondary and tertiary amines, when two or more groups are the same, the prefix di or tri, obviously as we do in naming, when we have two groups, similar groups, we say di, three similar groups, tri, etc. So this is the example. And here remember, when we talk about amines, it is the nitrogen which decides secondary or tertiary. It is not the carbon. So this is difference from normal IUPAC naming, what you have done in other chapters. Similarly, the tertiary one, on nitrogen, you have three carbons connected. So that's why it is tertiary. Okay, 3 degree. Here it is 2 degree because nitrogen is connected to two carbon. So two methyls connected to nitrogen. So that's why dimethylamine. In common name, alkyl groups. Similarly, here if we see, we have how many alkyl groups attached? We have 1, 2, 3, and all are methyl. So that's why trimethylamine. Suppose you have different alkyl groups. Suppose it is CH3NH C2H5. Okay. Now you will see which one is alphabetically first. Okay. So you will say ethyl methyl amine. Okay. It is still amine, but you will place the alkyl groups in alphabetical order. Now IUPAC naming. IUPAC naming, when we say it is alkanamine. So obviously it should have been alkane amine, but as two vowels normally do not appear in succession in IUPAC naming, so that's why this E is removed. So that's why it is alkanamine. So methanamine, ethanamine, something like that. So here, simplest one. In common name, it was methylamine. In IUPAC naming, it will be methanamine. In case more than one amino group is present at different positions in the parent chain, their positions are specified by giving numbers to the carbon atoms bearing NH2. Okay, so this is the position where NH2 is attached. And if there are more than one, we usually say di, tri, etc. Okay. Again, this is important. When we use di-tri, then letter E of the suffix of the hydrocarbon part is not removed. It is retained. The reason is, in that case, two vowels will not be in succession. Okay. So suppose I am talking about this one. Here in this case, two NH2 groups are there. Two amine groups are there on two different carbons. And if I number these two carbons, this is the main chain, as 1 and 2, one amine group is at 1 and the other one at second. So we will say ethanamine. Okay. And what is the proper way to name these ones? The proper way to name these ones is that you will first identify what is the longest chain of carbons. So longest chain of carbons here is this one. Okay. Now you will replace all NH2 groups with hydrogen. Listen carefully. I am saying you will replace all NH2 groups with hydrogen. So in that case, it will be CH3, CH3. So it means the parent chain is ethane. Okay. It is actually ethane having NH2 groups. Obviously, in case of amines, amine is put at the end. So amine is the parent in that sense. Okay. But the longest chain, you actually say it is ethane. So that's why you see ethane written here. So how will you identify whether it is ethane, propane, or whatever NH2 group is there, replace that by hydrogen. Okay. Now put the NH2 back. So we say it is ethane. Now I am writing ethane, E retaining there, okay? And on first and second carbons, I have amines. So I will say 1, 2 diamine. Okay. Why I have not removed this E? Because now there is D here. It is not A here. So if only one amine is there, so obviously di will not be there, only A will be there. Then after E, A, two vowels in succession. So in that case, E will be removed. But in this case, when you have ditri, this E will be retained. Usually you will get this in multiple choice questions that one option will have E, the other one will not have E. So if ditri is written, make sure that you take that option which has E in the alkane. In aryl amines, NH2 group is directly attached to the benzene ring. So this is the benzene ring here, and on benzene ring you have the amino group directly attached onto the benzene ring. This is the simplest form. This diagram is the simplest form of aryl amine benzene ring directly containing NH2 group. Now in common system it is known as aniline. It is aniline and it is acceptable IUPAC name also. So I will be using this name as IUPAC name also. While naming aryl amines according to IUPAC system, suffix E of arene is replaced by amine. So this suffix E of arene is replaced by amine. What I mean by that? So for example, if I have this one, which is aniline common name as well as accepted IUPAC name, in reality it will be benzene amine. So benzene, it is actually similar to what we have talked about earlier. It is benzene amine, but because two vowels normally are not in succession, okay, that's why this E is removed and it becomes benzene amine. Now few examples, amine and their IUPAC name, and it will help you understand the methodology, the rules. You already know the common rules. Slight difference to decide whether it is secondary or tertiary on the basis of nitrogen. That is something I'm going to talk about here also. So this is very easy one. We have, if you replace this NH2 by hydrogen, it is ethane. Okay. So because it is ethane, you will say it is ethanamine. And as you can see, E is not there. Here you don't have E. Next one, if you replace this NH2 by hydrogen, it is propane. But because NH2 was attached at first carbon, we will say it is propane 1-amine. Okay, now you would have already guessed that the next one, this one, where it is again, if you replace NH2 by hydrogen, it is propane. Okay, but the NH2 is attached on second carbon of the main chain. That's why it will be propan 2-amine. Next one. This one is slightly tricky. How we name the secondary and tertiary amines as per IUPAC names. So in this case, what you will do, you will identify the longest chain attached to the nitrogen. The longest chain attached directly to the nitrogen in secondary and tertiary is this one. Okay, so it means this is ethanamine. But the nitrogen also has CH3. Listen carefully because it will be used again and again. So we will say this CH3 is attached on nitrogen. So we say it is N-methyl. N-methyl indicates that the alkyl group is actually attached to nitrogen. So if you see here, it is ethanamine, but the substituent, instead of saying methyl, we say N-methyl, and the reason is because this methyl group is attached to nitrogen. And whenever you have single N, it is a hint that it is 2 degree secondary amine. So if it is secondary amine, there will be one N in the IUPAC name. Moving next. Now here on nitrogen, you don't have any hydrogen. You have all alkyl groups. It will be tertiary. So this is a hint. If there are 3 carbon atoms attached to nitrogen, it will be tertiary. And when it is tertiary, again you will identify the longest chain attached to the nitrogen. So longest chain is same here. all CH3. So you will consider any one as the longest chain. So if it is parent chain CH3, it is methenamine. So it is methenamine. Now there are two alkyl groups, side chains attached to nitrogen. So as we did in case of 2-degree amine, in 3-degree amine, now we will say these two attached to nitrogen. So we will say N comma N dimethyl. So this is a convention to write N two times. Okay, we could have written it N dimethyl. Okay, because both are attached to nitrogen, but the convention is that we write N comma N dimethyl methenamine. That will be the IUPAC name here. So N comma N means both of these methyl groups are attached to nitrogen, and obviously the parent was methenamine. You need to identify the longest chain attached to the nitrogen. So obviously it is butanamine. With butanamine, two ethyl groups are attached to nitrogen, so it will be N comma N diethyl butanamine. N comma N diethyl means two ethyl groups are attached to nitrogen as substituents, but the main group is butanamine. Now here it is important that you write 1, because out of these 4 carbons of butane, the nitrogen is attached on the first carbon. Why this carbon has been named as 1? Because this is where nitrogen is attached. Okay, so the numbering will start from this carbon. Next one. Now here you have the double bond and NH2 group. If you remember from your functional groups priority series from your 11th grade chemistry, okay, the amine group has higher priority than double bond, triple bond. Double bond and triple bond come in the last. So that's why the numbering has started from this carbon, because here NH2 group is attached. Okay. Now again, you will find out the longest chain. Longest chain is this one. But here in this case, it has a double bond. Okay. So it is propene. And with propene, you have double bond on which carbon? Second carbon. So it will be prop2ene. So it is actually propene, but because there is double bond on second, you will say, you will break it from here. You will break it from here. You will say prop 2ene. On second carbon, you have double bond. But it is amine, NH2. So how do you name it? You say it is prop 2ene 1 amine, because amine is connected on the first carbon. Amine could have been connected on second carbon also. Okay. Next one. Now this one, if you expand CH2 whole 6, it is actually hexane. Okay. But on hexane, first and sixth carbon, you have NH2. You can see that NH2 is connected on the terminal carbons. So it means NH2 are on first and sixth. So we will name it as hexane 1,6 diamine. So this is hexane and amine. This E has been retained because we have D here. Next one, aryl one. And this is something we have already done. Okay. So this is benzene amine. E is not there in benzene. Okay. Benzene amine. Or we can say aniline, because it is acceptable IUPAC name. Although common name, but it is acceptable IUPAC name. Next one. This can be named using two ways. First is that if you consider this as aniline, then on second carbon you have methyl. So you can say 2-methyl aniline. 2-methyl aniline. Okay. Or otherwise you can say 2-methyl benzenamine. So you can say 2-methyl aniline or 2-methyl benzenamine also. Next one. Now here bromine is attached on the fourth carbon of aniline. So you can say 4-bromo-aniline, or you can say 4-bromo-benzenamine. Both are correct. Okay, so 4-bromo-benzenamine or 4-bromo-aniline, both are correct. Next one. Now this one is important. Here on nitrogen, you don't have any hydrogen. It means all three are carbons here. So all three are carbons attached on this nitrogen. So these are two methyl groups. So if I redraw this one, it will be something like NCH3 CH3, isn't it? Now on this nitrogen, you have three carbons, it is tertiary, so it means it is an indication that in the answer, in the IUPAC name, you will have N comma N di. Okay, both are methyl groups, so it means it will be dimethyl. There can be different also, okay, but in this case, you have same alkyl groups. Now, as I said earlier also, if you are confused, the first thing is that replace all the substituents by hydrogen. So if you replace this CH3 by hydrogen, this CH3 by hydrogen, it is actually aniline or benzenamine. Okay, so that will be actually, and this is the way you will identify the answer. This will be actually NH2. Both CH3 are replaced by hydrogen. So it is actually aniline or benzenamine. So parent you got. Now what you will do? You will prefix the substituents and you will say N comma N dimethyl. The parent chain is benzenamine and the substituents are N comma N dimethyl. Now in the last, very good question, and it actually covers all the isomers and also covers the IUPAC names. So that's why it is important. So the question is that you have a compound with molecular formula C4H11N. You need to write all the isomers and their IUPAC names. So how do you write isomers? The best way is to first consider primary amines, then secondary amines, then tertiary amines. So primary amines will have NH2 group, secondary amines will have NH group, and the tertiary amines will have N only. So the first one will be the simplest one, means the straight chain with NH2 at the end. So straight chain with NH2 at the end. So as I said, the second one you will identify by keeping NH2 intact, means keeping it primary, but change the chain. So its IUPAC name is very simple because four carbons, it is butane, amine, E, removed butanamine. Okay. But amino group is at first carbon, so you will say butan, 1-amine. Second one, as I said, keeping NH2 group intact. So what is it actually? This one is actually I have kept NH2 intact, but I have changed here CH. I have brought this one here, CH3 and CH2 CH3 up to here on. One carbon removed here from here, moved to this one. So that's why it becomes CH3. So these two are exactly same, okay? Just written in different manner, but these are actually same. Now again, you will find the longest chain. So the longest chain here is this one attached to NH2. It is butane. But NH2 is now on second carbon. You will start numbering from the right side because from right side NH2 group is closest. Now you will say butane to amine. It is butane to amine. That's why I said that in first case you should write butane 1-amine. Now again you will see whether there is any other possibility keeping the NH2 group intact. Okay, so yes, there is another possibility. If you keep the NH2 group intact and bring the alkyl group here, so you move this one here, you will get this one. And again, it is very important. The longest chain connected to NH2 is this one. On first carbon, it is NH2. On second carbon, it is methyl. So in this case, you will write 2-methyl propan 1-amine is the answer. Okay. So I would still suggest that you write propan 1-amine here instead of just writing propanamine. That's a good idea. Now, is there any other possibility? Yes, there is another possibility. Okay, the possibility is you move this carbon here and this carbon here. In that case, it will look like this. So in this case, if you see what is the longest chain and where the NH2 and CH3 connected. Okay, so this is the longest chain of carbons, means it is propan 2-amine, because if you number 1, 2, 3, it will be propan 2-amine, and at second carbon you have methyl group also, so you will say it is 2-methyl propan 2-amine, 2-methyl propan 2-amine. Now there is no other possibility that you can keep NH2 group intact. So now come to the secondary group, means NH will be there. So this is the easiest possibility. You have NH in between. One side you have methyl, the other side you have propyl group. So this one, again the longest chain you will identify. So on that basis, you will say it is propanamine, because this is the longest chain. And on nitrogen, you have methyl connected. So you will say N-methyl propanamine. And I would still suggest that you say it is N-methyl propan 1-amine. Okay? Because this carbon will be first, this carbon will be second, this carbon will be third, and the nitrogen is attached on the first carbon. Okay? The next possibility, keeping the NH group intact. So NH group is intact. What you have done? You have moved the CH3 group here. Just to make it clear, what you have done now, you have moved this CH2 group here. Or you can say, just to match the given structure here. Now again, what is the longest chain? The longest chain is this one. Again, it is propan. On propan, you have amino group attached. How do you name? The easiest way, I said, whenever you are confused, replace the substituents by hydrogen. So if you replace this substituent, which is not the main chain, by hydrogen, it will actually be CH3CH3. I have just written this longest chain. And on second carbon, you have nitrogen. And if you replace CH3 by hydrogen, it is NH2. Okay? So it is actually propan 2-amine, isn't it? It is propan 2-amine. So that is the main chain, that is the parent now. So you will write propan 2-amine, but actually it has CH3 attached to nitrogen. So what will be the name? The name will be N-methyl propan 2-amine. On nitrogen, you have methyl group attached. Now the next one. Can you have any other possibility? Yes, you can have another possibility. You can have NH group in the middle. Okay. Both side ethyl groups. Okay. What is the easiest way to identify the name? The longest chain with the substituent as hydrogen. So because both are ethyl group, you can consider any one as substituent. So suppose this one is substituent, you replace it by hydrogen, it will become CH3, CH2, NH2, means it is ethanamine. So parent has become ethanamine. And in ethanamine, you don't need to mention 1 or 2 normally, because wherever NH2 is attached, that will be first carbon. Okay. And now because you have ethyl group attached to nitrogen, you will say it is N-ethyl ethanamine. N-ethyl ethanamine. Now there is no other possibility. You can't move carbon from any one carbon to other one. It will remain same. Okay. So the third possibility is the tertiary amines. For tertiary amines, it has to be just nitrogen, no hydrogen on it, all alkyl groups. Okay. So the possibility for that one is only one. You have 4 carbons, you can have 2 methyl groups and 1 ethyl group. There is no other possibility that you can have other alkyl groups attached to nitrogen. Now, how do you name this one? Again, you will find the longest chain and all alkyl group replaced by hydrogen. What you do? This is the longest chain. And if you replace these CH3 by hydrogen, this will become NH2. So it is ethanamine. Ethanamine with 2 methyl groups attached on nitrogen. So it will be N-N-methyl ethanamine, N-N-dimethyl ethanamine. All structures, all possible structures we have talked about, and also the IUPAC names. In next video, we will be doing some good questions on IUPAC naming of amines.